Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the Prodcast at Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. I am your host, Jim Fogarty. Our guest today is my uncle, Frank Castellano. If you've got a restaurant or a bar or you're looking for some entertainment at your private party, this is the guy you want to call. The reason I'm having him on the show is not only has he written a plethora of music and jingles, we actually many moons ago won an award for a jingle for a local restaurant that we created, a jingle we created for a restaurant. And he also contributed one of my all-time favorite songs. Some of you know or may not know that I produced a film back in my 20s called Waxing Gibbous, and it's got some great music on it. Guys like Gary Lee and the Cat Daddies and Good Brother Earl and Secret Agent Band and Steve Vuich, the River Saints. And one of my favorite songs on it is a song by Frank Castellano, our next guest. It is called Night Falls. It's super. And he actually is now working on a new album, his first album of all originals. He had an album that he released years ago called In a Mellow Tone, which is actually one of my favorite albums to chill out to. This one is all originals. That's coming out, and we're going to talk about it in this next episode. But first, let's take care of some bookkeeping. We are being broadcast above Dave Grohl Alley from Two Ticks and the Dog Productions, and that's going to be our big sponsor today. We're video production. We do production for TV, radio, on-screen cinema, and digital display, and that's really what I want to talk about. I just want to give you some info. If you're a business owner and you have a website and you are either using your marketing funnel to drive viewers to your website so that they can find out more about your business, you may want to contact us because we are experts in the field of digital display, rich media content advertising. Here's some stats. These are the number of online sources consulted before someone went to purchase or before someone went to vote. So listen to these numbers. Number of online sources consulted for voters, 14.7. Automotive, 18.2. Technology, like if you're going to buy like a new phone or you're going to buy something tech-wise, 14.8. Number of online sources consulted for insurance, 11.7. Banking, 10.8. Travel, 10.2. Investment, 8.9. Before they went to a new grocery store, 7.3. Before they went to a health center or a health store, online sources consulted, 9.8. Restaurants, 5.8. So you're on the web, you're searching for things, like let's just say you're a restaurant, okay? And someone's trying to find, I want to go get something to eat, and they search, Italian cuisine or Mexican cuisine or Asian cuisine, whatever it is. Not only do you want to have a great website, but while people are on the web searching on their mobile device or on their tablet or on their computer, you want to be popping up in digital display ads that are hyperlinked back to your website or back to your Facebook page, depending on what you got going on. How do you do that? You call Two Ticks and the Dog Productions, and we will set you up with a program that has a high click-through rate and that delivers rich media content. That means it's not just one static image, it's multiple images with multiple messages that are sure to drive buyers to your website. So that's our big pitch. That's our big sponsorship today. Today's podcast is sponsored to you by Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. I wanted to tell you about some purchase influences. We do all kind of other stuff too, but that is the big one. And of course, the thing that's fueling me, the thing we're going to talk about in June, I'm going to have a very special guest on to talk about biohacking. Yes, I've been talking about it from the very beginning. He's actually coming on the air. His name is Dr. Gene DeLucia. Okay, he's going to be talking about some amazing products that I've been turned on to and just some health practices in general that can keep you healthy, strong, keep weight off of you. People have been saying to me, they've been seeing me, they're like, oh man, you look great. Or man, you lost some weight. Or, what are you doing? you've kept some weight off. I've actually, in the last 4 years, have dropped about 20 pounds. I feel great. I feel healthier, and I'm more energetic than I ever was. How did I do it? Part of it was exercise. Part of it was some lifestyle change. But part of it was because I was willing to do the things today to biohack tomorrow. Boom. Biohacktomorrow.com. One of the big things, I talked about it last time. Hey, man, you want a little boost in your energy? There's an energy drink at biohacktomorrow.com called Axio. It's smart energy. And what does that mean? It's an all-day brain performance product that provides sustained energy. It improves your mood, it enhances your concentration and your focus. This stuff is true. You can look up the ingredients. When you go on that site, there's an ingredient list, and you can go Google or go to PubMed or go wherever you need to find out all these awesome ingredients included in this Axio and how it can benefit your body, your mind, and your spirit. So, you want to get kicking butt today? Biohacktomorrow.com. Without further ado, I don't want to talk anymore. I've been talking too long. Let's get to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Castellano. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, Frank Castellano.
Thank you.
This, I have to say, this is the 11th episode. We just got through 10. Thank you for everyone for listening. Frank is Brandon actually coined this today. This is our extended goal 2. See how many we can get to, etc. But this is the first one. I bring all that up because this is the first one where I was actually nervous ahead of time.
Why?
Right.
Why were you nervous?
Because, so prodders out there, Frank and I are nephew, uncle. Frank is my uncle. He's my mother's brother. And he, Brandon, for your benefit and for everyone else that's listening, is a big reason that I got into the arts and was inspired by music. And, we come from a very, I would say very, I don't know, I guess that's all relative, but we come from a fairly, I'll just say it, I'm trying to qualify it. We come from an artistic family.
Right.
My grandmother is a great freehand sketch artist. She plays, organ and piano by ear. My grandfather, Frank's dad, was probably one of the best pure storytellers, growing up.
He's a great storyteller.
And Frank is too. So it's awesome to have him on to do this. I think I was nervous because and I've said this before, it's a corny term probably, but Frank's like my guitar hero.
Right.
Like I grew up going out listening to Frank at a very young age. I tease my mom and go, Mom, you were like a hippie. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but
Probably not.
she likes the term now, though. She's like, oh, I was. But, we have pictures of going to these things that, Alex Bevan and Frank was in Godspell. And I grew up, idolizing him and looking up to him and listening to his music. And so.
And look how
I think it's a great thing. Some people's heroes are sports guys. They play in movies, and yours is blood. What better than that? So don't be nervous. Let's have a great time.
Yeah,
this is going to be a fun time, man.
I'm super pumped too. But I was like, where do I start and where do we start with your first interest in music? Did it come before the guitar was introduced, or did it come after? And walk us through that.
All right. So I've told this story a bunch of times, but I had a cousin who lived with us. He was from New York, and after he got out of the service, he came to Warren and lived with us for a while.
Who was
Johnny
it?
Pagello.
Johnny Pagello.
Did you ever meet Johnny?
I don't think so.
Anyhow, he was a guitar player, but a really good one too. And so my parents, they always wanted me to play the guitar, but I was 5. I had a little plastic guitar, Gene Autry guitar. There's a picture of me when I was 5, way before I played the guitar.
Did it have cowboys and stuff on it?
Yeah, it had cowboys. It did. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 5. We lived on Charles Street then. Anyhow, so 5 years later, because I was 10 years old, and my father was at somebody's house. And this woman had mentioned that she was going to throw away this guitar and my father said, well, if you're going to throw it away, I'll take it. And so he brought it home and he said, you want to take guitar lessons? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Because, I was 10. That was I going to say. So I was really lucky. My parents used to go dancing at the Ameritol Club, and they had a band there, and the guitar player in the band was a guy named Phil Plaskin. Great man, great teacher. And from the very beginning, I just had an aptitude for it, and I had a teacher that used to give me lessons and grade me, just like you would in school. And he would tell my father, he didn't practice this week. Well, that was like, the hammer came down, because we were paying $2 for the lessons. And, I wasn't going to...
This is 1950...
62. I was 10 years old, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
And, he told my teacher, my teacher told him, my dad, he has to practice an hour a day. That was like the gospel then, So I had to practice an hour a day. And, which really, obviously was really good. I have students now, and I tell people, your kid didn't, you're just not really practicing much. They go, oh, he has soccer and all this bullshit. I don't care. What the hell are you telling me for? No, you're paying me a lot of money. Well, anyhow, that wasn't my case. So anyhow, to get back to your answer, your question. So I didn't really get a chance. Other people picked, like Bruce Springsteen does that famous story where his father would say, stop playing that blah, blah guitar. Well, I didn't get a chance to rebel because, I got lessons and, and I liked it. And so, and then, I got my first electric guitar when I was like 12. It was a K. It weighed as much as that couch. And there's a picture of me, really a bad one. Anyhow, so my first performance outside of the house was at the Ameritol Club, and my teacher was in the band, and they brought me down. I took like 9 showers that day. I was so nervous, and they brought me down to the Ameritol Club, and I played in front of all those adults. They were all decked out. People used to get dressed up then, and they got all decked out, and I played my one song, and everybody went, oh my goodness, he's so good. Well, they were all my friends of my parents. What they really wanted to say was, okay, get the kid home now. We're going to drink. We don't need him here. So, but anyhow, that was my first time, and then somehow the nuns got wind of that. I don't know. I might have told them I played. And they had, okay, you'll be playing at lunch tomorrow. So I brought my...
Lunch at the school.
And the tip hat went to the rectory, rebuild the rectory fund. Frank got none of that
Special
money.
assessment collection.
We're going to need you to play
Frank
2 more songs. We didn't collect enough.
Listen, that church over on Main Street, Frank bought that. We had built that shit with his guitar work.
So anyhow, that was my thing. And so from that, everything just was on a roll then. I'm just like every other kid in the world. By the time I was 12, that was 1964. Guess what happened then?
The invasion, man.
And so every one of us, there were guitars, and we were all influenced by the same people and learned the same songs and whatnot. So that began the ball rolling.
But you got to jump too, and I've heard this story many times. You got to jump from other people because you had your interest at 5 with Johnny Pagello.
Yeah.
And then the Sarge. Frank's father, my grandfather, was a drill sergeant in World War II, and he trained guys to go into combat prior to. And anyway, so he was, very organized, and I can, that's the first time I'm hearing this, so I'm trying to like play it out in my head, and the Ameritol Club for prodders out there beyond the Youngstown, Warren Greater area. That's a social club that was put together by Italian Americans.
Yeah, the Amerital, American Italian Club.
Yeah, and so they would go there and have social time as adults, and so I love that story. What's the guy's name again? Your teacher, Phil Plaskin. Phil Plaskin. Yeah. Shout out, man.
Yeah,
the Phil Plaskin family.
Great guy. And I think he died. He died tragically. He was in a car crash, and he was around for a long time. And but anyhow, he was a great guy. I was really lucky that I had him in my life at such an early age.
When did you form your first ensemble, your first band? Was it quickly after the Beatles?
Well, it was right about then. I met these guys from Howland. They had really nice equipment. Like 12, they had brand new cars and shit.
Howland's the suburb of Warren again, Prodders. It's a nice area. Brandon lives there in his mansion.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so my first band was actually called the London Boys. Yeah.
Nice. And that was a play towards the invasion?
Yeah.
British invasion?
Yeah. Ricky Vanelli was the bass player. And,
Ricky Vanelli.
Yeah, his mom was really cool.
Stage name or straight up name?
He sounds pretty London-esque, too. Vanelli.
His mom allowed him to... have Playboy magazine.
Whoa. Ricky's mom was progressive.
And he had long hair, what passed for long hair. Then, it was outrageous. And Beatle boots, And
You got to listen to his records backwards.
Yeah.
What are Beatle? That didn't come till like the late '60s. What are Beatle boots?
Beatle boots, they had a kind of a high heel. They were black leather boots, no laces or anything like that. They were just, black heeled boots that the Beatles wore.
Yeah. I wonder if those are coming back. Is that a hipster thing now?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
We're starting the trend. Hipsters don't gravitate towards it. Someone else is going to bring back Beatle boots.
I don't know any hipsters right now.
What was the first songs you played? Beatles songs?
The Beatles and the Beatles and the Stones, and there were factions in every band. Guys would argue the Beatles they sucked. The Stones, man. It was Beatles versus the Stones. And some people still have that argument now.
What camp are you in?
You can drive back. Well, I mean, there were different bands. There was nobody better. To this day, there's nobody better than anybody. It was different,
Yep.
But I didn't have enough confidence to argue it one way or the other, and because I didn't have Beatle boots, my level of commitment didn't reach that.
You've got 57 years in the music business. Frank is a professional musician. He's a working musician. Maybe not from the time of 10, although from the time of 10, yeah, you got some. How much money did you make at the Ameritol, the first show?
Oh, I didn't make anything. I was 12 years old. I just, they just brought me down there to, as a dog.
Warm up the crowd, yeah.
Hey, this is my kid. He's not in jail yet. Look,
Do you remember any of the songs that you played from the London Boys?
Oh, yeah. Well, we played...
You want to try one out?
No.
Frank brought his guitar. So this is the first time we're going to have
Some live entertainment.
some live music. Because eventually, later on down the line, we're going to talk about a little project, and we'll roll into that later. But the London Boys sounds kind of punk.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were London Boys for a while. And then, I don't know what happened. Somebody changed the name to the What For.
Oh, now this is a band I remember. I mean, I remember the name. I know that, yeah.
Yeah, the What For. There's a picture of us at the Monkey House right across the street. What is that thing called?
The Monkey House?
Right in the park there.
The cabin?
No, not in the cabin. Yeah, I can't come up with the name of
The
it.
jail.
Yeah, well, probably where we should have been. No. Where does everybody play in the summertime? Noon in the park. What's the name of it?
Oh, at the amphitheater.
The pavilion.
Yeah, not the pavilion.
Oh, yes, the gazebo.
The gazebo.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't come up with gazebo.
In
We
the
were
Trump-
just
in the-
Samsonite.
in the downtown courthouse here in Warren.
Yeah, so there's a really funny. I can probably find this. I'll have to look for it. But there was an article in the paper. It said, this week the What For will play.
Man, that's high press, man.
At the gazebo, and they will provide a contrast to the Harding marching band that played the week before.
So what did you guys play? Did you play some Stones?
Oh yeah, we played Beatles, Stones, and various songs from that area. I don't remember all the tunes, but typical stuff from that era, which was a lot of Beatles and Stones.
Did you do any originals?
No.
Okay.
No,
Not then. That came later, right?
Yeah, we didn't do any. Nobody was doing originals then.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they are now, but they're not. Go ahead.
When did you start? When did you remember the first song you wrote? When did you start writing? Because Frank's, 67 years, you're prolific. You did a lot of songs. A lot of songs you forgot. I'm gonna talk about one later. I brought up. You're like, I forgot I made that song.
Probably. I had way too much. Well, maybe not too much, but I had a healthy respect for songwriting. So I didn't. I wanted to serve a long apprenticeship that turns into decades. And actually, the most that I'd written, and it was all the music for a play that was actually produced at Kent State. It was like a student project, and it was I fell in love with this woman, and she was hired to write, the book, and they needed someone to write the music, and so we were in love. If she would have asked me to, stand on my head, and I would have done that. So I said, okay.
You're 20 at this time?
No, I was more like 28 or so.
Okay.
And prior to that, I didn't. I attempted to write, but I didn't really think I had anything to say, and so I wanted to wait some time. And it doesn't stop a lot of people, and it should, Anyhow, so I wrote the music for this play, and it was really, I'd never done anything like that, and I thought, wow, it's amazing what happens when you're in love, what you can do. And but anyhow, so that was really the first big burst, and we got reviewed, and the reviewer savaged the end.
Son of a bitch.
Well, it was good. I had copies of the review made up. It was in the Akron Beacon Journal. I had copies of the review made up, and I signed it and gave them to my friends, and I said, I couldn't have done it without your influence. And, well, I only wrote lyrics to one of the songs in the play, and that got the best review. So that
Nice.
saved me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't expect to go to Broadway from Kent.
Well, you're at 28 at that point. Now at that stage, you've already been in a half dozen bands, and you've been playing out. Like, walk us through that middle stage real quick.
Well,
Your
from
20s.
when
music's changing, 60s, late 60s, 70s.
Well, that didn't affect me as much because I went to Youngstown State for 2 years, and I was teaching guitar. And
I'm sorry. What were you? Were you studying music at Youngstown State?
I was studying draft evasion.
Yes.
To be honest, I really had no.
I love the honesty. This is why I was excited about this. I was excited about this one.
I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. That's when my friends say, he's 20 and he doesn't know. And then, I go, it doesn't, forget it.
I'm 40 and I don't know.
Who's got it all planned out at 20? Anyhow, I had no idea. I was teaching guitar, and a call came in one day to the music store. And my friend Doug DePretta was working there. And Doug, get well. He's got some struggles right now. Get well, Doug. But anyhow, somebody called up and said, we need a guitar player for this show band. And he was going, yeah, we got one right here. And I was going like that, no, shaking my head. And he goes, come on. So I got on the phone, and they said we needed an audition. There was an agency in it at the time. Then, mind you, there was music everywhere. If you could play a little bit, you could work and make money and stuff. And so this agency started up, and Maureen McGovern, I don't know if you've ever heard her name. She was
It's Phil's first wife.
Right.
Yeah.
But, she went on to have a really good career. And, she's the queen of disaster songs. Every time somebody died in a movie, they had a hit record for her. But anyhow, so they offered me a job. I went on the road. They paid our expenses. And I thought, this is great. And so the guitar really was my ticket out of town. And I'd always wanted to travel and whatnot. And then when you're learning, like now, you play 3 hours a night, or you'll go see, there'll be a live music somewhere, and there'll be 19 bands, each playing 3 songs. And, man, we had to learn 6 hours. No kidding. Most of the time it was 5 hours of material. Some places it was 6.
Holy shit.
So, it was like total immersion.
And they had to have some stamina to you, too.
Well, we were 20,
right.
So we had all the stamina.
Yeah, true.
Plenty. But so that was, like total immersion, And, we would play these shows, and then afterwards go into our motel rooms and practice, hang out and, have a good time. And we were always talking about music. So that was a huge growth period, So I did that from like 20 to 25. And at that point,
what was the radius of travel? And
Oh,
And
geez.
Warren McGovern was in these shows with
No. She was just the biggest act in the agency.
Gotcha.
And there was like a half a dozen other bands in the agency. No, I was not with her.
So were you playing show tunes? Like, was the agency booking mostly show tunes, or was it just...
It's not show tunes, but a show band was then. I don't know if it exists now. Well, like there were rock bands, which obviously you go to a club and you see a rock band.
Right.
Show bands appeared mostly in, restaurants. Locally,
supper clubs.
Alberini's. Used to have a room there. That was like a home base for all of these acts in that agency. And a show band, people sit down, listen to you, so you have to be. And there was no competition. There wasn't 19 TVs showing Little League tryouts from Encino, California. There was just people on the stage. So you learned all of these techniques on how to manipulate. Audiences,
keep people's attention, and get them engaged.
Right, and you had to be, you looked around and you were cognizant of what was going on, and if somebody started talking over here, you were losing them. So you had to be. Nowadays, the rules have changed because now you play a club, and it's not uncommon to be competing with TVs, over here, wet T-shirt contest, a dwarf toss over here, and it's not the same, So, anyhow, that's what a show band was, and we had 4 singers. I didn't sing. I was in that first band. I played in a trio that backed up 4 singers. And,
Did you sing at the time also?
I sang. They would do 2 shows, and we would do 3 sets. So we would do 5 sets total, 2 backing up the 4 singers. And they had red sport coats on, and this is the hippie era.
That's cool. Yeah. So you're in a different. Your set is a different thing from that.
No, we had to remain a theme. It was typically, there was some jazz standards, some contemporary tunes. It was real education. You had to learn a whole bunch of different kind of songs.
That's cool.
People danced during that set, but when the show came on, they sat down and watched it. So that was very good education, for a couple of years. And then I was in a couple other bands after that. So anyhow, the Radius, we played New York City, East Tawas, Michigan. Oh man, it was a culture shock. We played New York City at a place called Cody's. And it was right around the corner from Rodney Dangerfield's club. So on our breaks, I'd walk over to Rodney Dangerfield's club and stand there and
The question is, did you get any respect at that club?
No.
Nice.
And so and then you're in Mecca, you're in the center of music, art, New York City.
Yeah,
and then our next gig was in East Tawas, Michigan. And at the time, the band that I was in, we played some songs from Jesus Christ Superstar and Fiddler on the Roof and tunes like that. And so we went to East Tawas, Michigan. Trust me, there was no internet then. So you could very well be the smartest guy in East Tawas, the hippest guy, and never have heard of Jesus Christ Superstar. So when we went there, and the guy said,
you guys were aliens.
Well,
man.
the club owner goes, so what kind of material do you do? And we mentioned some things, and we went, some things from Jesus Christ Superstar. And he goes, what? Jesus Christ Superstar. We went, yeah, it's not really as bad as you'd think. You guys don't get out of East Tawas much, do you? And they didn't. It was a different world, no internet.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. It's we've been like 15 years now, so differently. Where if you didn't know a band's name, you couldn't say, here, check this out real quick. This is kind of what I do, or show a video. This is what we do. This is our demo and stuff.
Yeah,
you had to sell your personality. You had to sell what you did, and then. You ever played any, back in the day, did you ever play any jams? People are like, is that an original? And you're like, wait a minute, this is a Beatles song. But let me look around. Can I get a free drinks? Let me...
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing out there to, fact check it in a sense.
No, you can film yourself falling downstairs now, and people in China can watch it in 5 minutes.
Well, I think that's a great point just about, and it's always interesting to talk about the diversification like your education on the road was so, and I think people will. Frank is very well known in here, these parts here. He's very well known as being a musician that is competently skilled in various, and so it's interesting for me to hear this because I've heard many of these stories, but not to the context of this. Mm-hmm. So to know that, 5 hours, I can't imagine playing, more than 5 minutes. I mean, but obviously I'm not a musician, but 5 hours, and I'm thinking like various genres and different sets, and I think so. To your library and acumen for music, you've probably forgot more than people now who go into a 4-year degree or whatever it is, and they're learning I'm not knocking that, but a particular set and different things. You were out there, and to Brandon's point, there was no internet, so you weren't competing with things, and your skill set is that if you go out and hear Frank locally or anywhere, but if you go out and hear Frank, particularly when he played with a jazz quartet, I that was the hip spot like 20, not quite 20 years ago, but to go hear Frank at the Avalon Gardens with a quartet, and he would engage, and you weren't competing because it was like in a back room. It was a great place to see shows. I used to bring chicks there all the time, like try to impress them. This is my uncle.
And then they dumped him.
This is my hero.
And so, but your acumen and your repertoire is very large. It has a large breadth of work.
Yeah. Well, one thing is my teacher, Phil Plaskin, he taught me songs. That was the way he taught, So it wasn't just exercises. Probably a lot of people learn like that, but they were songs, and they were mostly from it was 1962, so they were from 62 and before, And most of those songs, and most of that era was my parents' era, and I loved their music anyhow, So anyhow, I started with that. Then you moved to popular music, rock and roll. Then you moved to on and on and on. You move through all these things, and then you play in these show bands, and things are expected of you. And that's one thing that I'm really happy that I did. I put myself in situations where things were expected of me. Because if you just start your own band and nobody ever tells you what to do, you don't have anybody. How do you know where the line is? How do you know how high you have to
yourself?
Go? Right. And so that was for me. And that was very big. It was here, learn these songs and have them by Friday.
Yeah. And expectations, and then meeting deadlines and things like that nature, keeping yourself accountable.
Right.
Here's something too. You're doing 5 to 6 hours of music. One of our good friends, Tim Drummond, he would play for a few hours. He would need to know different cover songs and stuff like that. But he's able to easily go on. I'm talking within minutes nowadays. Print out music sheets. Print out lyrics.
Yeah.
How did you, if they told you, I need 4 hours this coming up this Friday, were you listening to songs, writing down the lyrics?
Well,
where did you get this information from?
You've seen those things on Facebook, misunderstood lyrics from years ago, because now you could go on lyrics.com and get lyrics to songs that haven't been written yet practically, But back then, you listened to records and
duplicate it the best you can?
Well, you listen, and what is he saying here? Like, Louie, oh, baby, we don't have any idea what the hell that guy's talking about.
Right.
They didn't know what they were talking about. But, it was banned, because it was full of sexual innuendo. It wasn't. But when you don't know what the person's saying, you can attribute anything to that song. So anyhow, that's what we did. Well, we think he's saying this, so that's what we're going to say. And then as far as learning how to play, you pick the needle up and you place it on that record, and you listen to it and you go, oh man, how did he do that? How did he do that? Oh, it was painstaking. Now,
within minutes, you can get the whole, like I said, you get the lyrics in front of your face. You get
not
the
only
sheet
that,
music
you
right
can
in front
get
of
somebody
your face.
to teach you that song a lot of times too. There's like 50 dudes on there,
50,
right?
YouTube videos.
Here's how you play.
Right. Here's the lick from that song. Yeah. So kids are way better than we were, because they're exposed. I mean, now you can see, a 4-year-old kid playing all the parts from Bohemian Rhapsody simultaneously on a kazoo.
Right.
So yeah, that back then, and it was, oh man, somebody learned that Hendrix lick. How do you do that? I remember one particularly at the beginning of Wait Until Tomorrow, which was on Axis Bold as Love. My friend learned that, and he showed me, and it was gold, man. It was gold. But anyhow, that's how we learned. It was there was no one even tab now, which is not music, but it just shows you the positions on the guitar.
That's how I started to learn. Was tab. I don't
Yeah.
I'll read music.
And
I downshift just for a second because I want to just go back to that story in New York City. You're playing, and then going to see Rodney Dangerfield out. And Frank, obviously, so it's a two-part. There's two questions to this because obviously we're laughing here, and this is typical of Frank. Like, you ever think about? We're actually talking about stand-up before we started the show. You ever think about doing stand-up? Because
here's the deal. I obviously have an absurdist view of the world. Stand-up is very hard. It's easy when Mom and Dad and Aunt Sally are in the audience,
right?
Yeah.
But when they don't show up, and it's some guy with a neck tattoo and a live Chihuahua earring, you better make him laugh.
Well,
all art's great to your family and friends.
Yeah.
Frank told me this a while ago. And we were talking about somebody else, I think, and probably myself as well. But go out and get your ass kicked. Like, you got to go out and take your. Frank's instrument is the axe, is his guitar. Go out and take your lumps and get out of, your comfort zone of the people who obviously love you and they want you to do, so they're going to, they have an affinity for you. They tell you, oh, it's great.
You need it.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'll tell you, when going back to Destiny was the name of the organization that I played in that first show band with, and they had a musical director that arranged for all of the bands that they had, and his name was Orly Vitello.
All these guys are Italian. Notice all these people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Vitello, Pagello, Vigili, hey.
Anyhow, Orlando Vitello.
Banana, bobano, fanny, wanny, Italian.
He taught at Youngstown State. And he was really a smart guy. And right before we left town for the first time, he took me aside and said, "You're pretty good." Thank you, And he says, "But you know what? When you get out of town, Mom and Dad aren't going to be there cheering, and all the parents from this band aren't going to be there cheering you on. And there's going to be strangers in the audience, and you're going to have to earn there. So you got to practice." And so every town that I went to, the first thing I did after we unloaded, got our motel rooms, I would go to a music store and take a lesson. I did that all over the country.
No shit.
Just one lesson, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
You probably met a lot of Italian people along your way that taught you more music.
Well, the thing about traveling
not
across
in Wabash, Michigan, or wherever.
Excuse me, sir. What? You're Slovakian? No.
you travel across the country, you're going to find out that this is a big country, and you won't recognize it as America, the America that you know.
Yeah.
I don't have a plethora of music background like you do, but
you were in a band. Though.
Yeah, I was in a band in high school and went on to my early 20s. We're in a band, did mostly covers.
Trying to get chicks.
Just trying to get chicks, trying to get free beer and stuff like that.
Okay.
But one of the golden rules.
No pay tonight. You're just drinking for free.
One of the golden rules, and you would just see it, is I was always taught, and maybe you could speak about your years of probably doing this, is whether there's 5,000 people or there's 5 people, you give it all you got and you put the best show on that you have.
Yeah.
You don't be one of those people that say, "There's only 5 people out here, man. We're just gonna
That's
play
nonsense.
half-ass."
No.
Because that's free. Here's the thing: every opportunity that I had on stage was an opportunity to make myself better. Mm-hmm. So if there was only 5 people out there, we would look at each other and say, "Now's the time to maybe try a couple different things." You know what I mean?
Nice.
Not say, "Let's just get the hell out of here." What do you think about that? Was that always your philosophy too?
No.
Okay. There was 5 people.
Well,
I was getting the hell out.
When I first started doing solo stuff, I was working for a restaurant chain in Cleveland. It was Boar's Head's Dry Dock. They were all under the same umbrella. Boar's Head, Dry Dock, Mountain Jacks, and I can't remember the other. Maybe that was the only ones. But I would get 6-week contracts, 5 nights a week at one. And then
You living in Kent at the time?
yes.
Yeah.
And which was great because there was tons of music. I would work 6 weeks, make enough money, take a couple of weeks off, and I'd play with a whole bunch of different people, you know. Anyhow, so what was I going to say? Oh, to your point, Monday night there'd be 3 used car salesmen there, drinking, trying to hit on the cocktail waitress. That's who I'm playing to, Tuesday night, kind of the same thing, and it would work up to the week. And during the week, Wednesday night, you might have 10 secretaries there because it's hump day and just like that. But most of the time, and that's where you learned how to get an audience on your side. And still, at this point, there weren't TVs everywhere. It was live music 5 nights a week. Imagine that, In any event, one particular time, you might get a kick out of this, I was playing and there was one guy there. And I would play a song, and when I get...
You're soloing at the time?
Yeah. I'd play a song, and he would applaud. I went, okay, cool. There's one guy here who's into my thing. I don't feel as lonely as I did, So I'd do another tune, and and he would applaud very enthusiastically, This went on a couple times, and then I took a break, and I went up to him and I said, "Oh, thanks, man. It's really nice having you here to play to, And he looks at me and he goes like this. He was deaf. He didn't hear a note that I played. He just seen me stop singing, so he knew the song was done. And I thought to myself, wow, so this is all in my head. Everything exists in my own head. And so that's, anyhow, that was one. That's actually happened to me twice.
Same guy.
No, different guy. Different guy. But anyhow, yes, and even now,
the same guy.
I would rather play to 3 people listening to me than 100 people who are screaming over me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and in clubs, you get that now, especially now, because like I said, the techniques you learned on how to manipulate an audience are out the door now because you're competing with 3 people watching 4 playoff games.
I want to go back in time one last time before we move into the future.
Sure.
Back to this Rodney Dangerfield. You're in New York City. You're checking him out. And that's we was talking about that comedian thing. But so our family's from New York. Frank's father's from Brooklyn. Did any of the family ever come out while you were there to see the shows? And you got any cool stories? Uncle Ernie ever get into some anything ever?
No. Johnny Pagello came out.
Okay, Johnny Pagello. That's Sonny's?
His brother.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's my father's old.
First cousin.
No, it's his sister.
Nephew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But anyhow, he came out for his 40th birthday. We were playing at a place called Cody's. It was on East 62nd Street.
How do you remember that, man? That's awesome.
And
is Cody still around?
Oh, probably
Check that
not.
out, New Yorkers.
Probably not.
Cody's on. I wonder what's on East 66th now.
So it was like an after. We did
an after-hour club.
Yeah, I was playing with a band called Jerry Hammond and the Entertainers, featuring Gail Short. There were 4 people in the band.
Little ego there.
Oh, Jerry was a criminal, and he picked up a U-Haul trailer in East Tawas, Michigan, and that was it. Never dropped it off. And
so you're playing at E66, and Johnny Pagello walks in unannounced, or do you know he's going to be there?
I don't remember if I knew he was going to be there, but he came with his wife Ann and another couple who I don't remember who they were. But that was his 40th birthday, and that was 1973. So I could always tell how old he is based upon that. He turned 40 in 1973. So anyhow, the other aunts and uncles, no, but I did stay with my grandmother. She lived on East 7th Street, 383 East 7th Street in Brooklyn. I stayed with them, and God, it was so much fun to be around them as an adult.
That's awesome.
And traveling around the country, and I get to see, I get to stay with them. They were really a lot of fun at that point.
And then you went East Coast playing and traveling and doing things, and mostly based out of Kent. And at some point, walk me to that stage.
No, this was prior to Kent. From 70.
Well, I'm encapsulating now.
Oh, okay.
I'm encapsulating. So we moved back out into the now.
Kent, we're going back to Kent?
Well, no. So we did Kent. We did the New York thing. and at some point in your 30s, you moved to Las Vegas. That's the next. This is and for my chapter because and I'm trying to think how old I was when you moved. Frank always was like, "This is," but so. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and around them and my parents but Frank was always out of town. The rest of the family was mostly in town. Frank was in Kent, and I would see him sporadically, etc. And then he moved to Las Vegas, and that was like a big. Or did you move somewhere else first?
Well, what happened was I was.
And give us a chronology here. You're 32, 30. How old are you?
32. Something like that.
This is the 80s now.
Yeah, early 80s. Yeah, I had a band. I was in Kent. I had a band.
The Main Squeeze?
No, that was after that. I had a couple of guys that I played with, really, and we weren't making any money. And what happened was, this was, disco had already happened, which wiped out a lot of live music. Kent still had some, but... there was like Devo, and there's those kinds of bands came in. Yeah, they were great and everything, but it was a different thing. What we were doing, we'd outlived our usefulness.
You weren't putting red hats on and jumpsuits,
right?
Yeah,
and there weren't as many venues, and my friends, we played a show. They used to play a place in Ravenna called the Carousel Dinner Theater, and every once in a while we'd luck out and get a show there and play in the pit there. And so my friends got a job playing with this show called Bottoms Up, and they told me one day, "Hey, we're going to," they hired us, so we're going to New Orleans with them. We're going to be with them. They traveled. And so that was the end of that. And they said, Dan and Gotti said, "Hey man, if a guitar chair opens up, we'll give you a call." And I thought, okay, cool. I never thought that would happen. And so a couple of years later, I had fallen in love and written that play, and I was still with that woman, and she just graduated from college, and we were sitting there going, "What do we do now?" Because we're so much in love, we could do anything, And my friend called up. Now, this is important to know. I don't know if this could happen now, but my friend called up and said, he was a bass player, and he said, "I'm leaving this show, and so buy a bass, and you could be." Now, I didn't play the bass, and the bass and guitar are similar,
right.
but they're
totally
different. Yeah, completely different instruments, and I did not play the bass. I didn't own a bass at that point. And I said, "Okay." I'm like Pete Davidson. Okay. And so I bought a bass, and I really practiced, and I bought a car, and like that, and I told my girlfriend, she said, "Okay," and so we packed up, and our first job was in Houston. So we left in February. It was cold and gray and edgy and shit, And we drove to Houston, and we played. Springtime in Houston is really nice, and so we played a show at some Red House Dinner Theater there, and I was being exposed to a completely different world. And then from there, we went to Las Vegas, where we stayed for about a year. And from there, we went to Reno another year, then to Tahoe, and they laid me off in Tahoe, and that's how I ended up staying there, because they But anyhow, from there I went, Tahoe, Reno, San Francisco, Tahoe. Yeah. I didn't know where I was most of the time, but it was. Anyhow, that's how I ended up out there.
Traveling and playing. Most nights a week, 6 nights a week, 5 nights a week, whatever.
Well,
different extensions for the show time and then take a break.
Well, the show was, we played 2-hour shows, hour and 15-minute shows. And then there would be 4 shows on the bill. And the other 2 shows would be Jay Leno, either comedians or Dennis Miller and Tower of Power, B.B. King, on and on and on. So I got to meet all these people and watch them. If I wanted to watch them 5 nights a week, I could. They would do 2 weeks. We would be there for a year. And so every 2 weeks, that thing would change. And most of the acts were great. I could see it, and I got to meet these people a little bit. Hang out with them. They were.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any cool stories? Everybody likes to hear the cool. Who was super cool?
Oh, B.B. King. My friend was a sound man at Harrah's, and he said, "Hey Frank, B.B. King's coming in for a sound check today. You want to hang around and watch it?" I went, "Hell yeah, man!"
Who wouldn't?
And so they had a room in the back of Harrah's with a whole bunch of equipment in it, and he just brought his guitar, Lucille. And, I always get a kick out of gearheads when they start talking about equipment. I go, B.B. King didn't bring an amp, okay? He used whatever was laying around. Well, he liked super reverbs, and so we went in the back room and got a super reverb, brought it back, and he hooked up the amp, and I sat in the front row, and I'm waiting to hear, I'm waiting for B.B. King's sound check, and I'm thinking, I'm going to see like half hour, 45 minutes of B.B. King playing tunes and whatnot. I was really excited, I'm starstruck, And little by little, the band filters in, and then here comes B.B. King. He just walks in, and he's got his guitar, and he says hi to me, because I was one of the few people there. And I went, "Yeah, hi, man." Yeah. And
you call him Mr. King or BB?
No, I just said hi.
What's up, BB?
I don't remember what I said. Yeah, because we're dudes, So anyhow, I was sitting there, and B.B. King plugs into this amp. He turns the amp on. He plugs into this amp, and he plays a couple of notes, and just a couple of B.B. King licks. I'm going, this is going to be great, And twists a couple of knobs, and then he plays a couple of notes, and he turns around, twists the knob, and then he turns the amp off, unplugs his guitar, and leaves. There was not a lot, no, man, it's in my fingers, okay? There ain't no knob where you can do this kind of stuff, And that was it. And, the rest of the guys were there, but I wasn't interested in going, their sound check. But later on, in fact, your Uncle Dave, excuse me, I bought B.B. King's, I think it was his 50th anniversary album. I went out and bought it at a record store, and I brought it in, and I asked him to sign it. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, sure." And he said, "What do you want me to put on there?" And I said, "Happy birthday, Dave." And it might have been Merry Christmas. I think it was Happy Birthday, Dave. And he puts Happy Birthday, Dave, B.B. King. Dave, he still got it.
That's awesome, man. I did not know that.
Yeah. So he was, completely without airs. I mean, this guy was a very real person. And that comes across just on stage,
Yeah.
That's just who he is.
Yeah, you're not faking that shit.
Yeah, there's nothing to fake at this point,
right.
Man. You're B.B. King.
Right.
Who were you?
Well, he knew he was bad on his instrument, too.
Yeah, he just, you pay your dues. The real people.
It's not ass shaking and, gyrating on this. That's what today is, which I think is an interesting, dichotomy. He's just there. He brings one thing. He's got his instrument. That's his tool.
Yeah.
But the real magic is what he is. What he brings.
Nobody's going to go see B.B. King and say, "God, his guitar didn't sound that good." No, it sounded pretty good.
I want a reverb amp and all these. We had Eric Ryan on last show, and we were talking about riders, off air. We're talking about riders and stuff, and I need to have my Steinway there. I need to have 4 rooms with this and that, and And this guy just shows up with a guitar. That's a cool story. So then at some point, you move home, which was for me as a kid, I'm in my... Well, actually, we moved home kind of at the same point, although I was only gone...
You graduated from college not long after I came here.
Yeah. Yes, right.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited, and that was a cool... it's corny, but the sun returned, and then I got to, as an adult, start to really appreciate what I had. It's funny, when my uncle came home from Vegas or, from out west, we would go, and obviously it was a, big how do you do, and it was fun, and it was a lot of times around holidays. And at one point I can remember you coming home, and I was in high school. And one of my best friends at the time, and still to this day, is my buddy Mark Walton, Mike Cornicelli's grandson. And anyways, and so I said, "Man, my uncle's home." He was dropping me off at grandma's after. I said, let's, instead of, fucking off after school today, my uncle's coming home, man, let's go and see. And, and I was, I was like talking you up, man. I go, he could play anything, man, by ear. He's so amazing. And so we went into the basement, and you probably don't even remember this. And I was just like, hey, man, and Mark was we were all Zeppelin fans and Clapton, and we were just naming tunes, and you were just ripping them and playing them. And it was so, I felt cool. And then that's a couple years later, probably 4, 5, 6 years later, I'm getting home from college, and you're moving home from out west, and it was super cool. And it was still kind of, you talk about a music scene that you experienced, 4 years ago. For me, this was 20 years ago. Not even probably a blip on the radar in comparison to where, you were at. But for me, that was my music heyday. And we were, going down to the local bars and the clubs and seeing live music. And you could see Frank several nights a week, along with a host of others. And I talked about Avalon Gardens. And, that was just a cool thing, man. And that was a cool scene. And then at some point, you take your original stuff and you make an album. I know I'm flashing forward like super fast, but want to keep us on pace to some extent because that guitar behind you is gleaming at me. But you move home and you make In a Mellow Tone. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like? I was fortunate enough to come and watch a little bit of that,
Well, that had only one original song on it, and that was an instrumental. And the rest,
China de Pasqualina.
yeah, which I can't even play anymore. I have to practice. But that was, my real talent is hiring people that are better than me.
You taught me this skill, by the way. Yeah.
You got to
surround yourself with killers.
I mean, if you're the best person in the band, you're in the wrong band. And so I had
Tim Harker,
and Wilbur Krebs. And Tim is still around.
I run into him once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see him in like YSU or out in Youngstown or whatever.
And his son's band is great too.
Who's his son's band?
Ghost Soul Trio was one of them.
What? Shout out Ghost Soul Trio.
They were just
at
that big Youngstown music fest last weekend.
The Party on the Square thing.
Yeah.
Ghost Soul.
Yeah. So I told Tim, well, I've lived long enough that I wouldn't be good enough to be in your son's band.
That's I don't know if that's true necessarily. But
they're good.
I remember going to, what's Talanka's place called out in?
Toontown.
Toontown.
Which is where that was recorded.
Yeah. Super cool place. Mm-hmm. I actually ended up coaching Mike Talanka's nephew, Pete, in soccer years later. But that's a cool place. And I that was the first time I had ever experienced that. Like going out and seeing like real artists putting it down. It was fucking cool.
That was a real place.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so that was, we did that in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And actually went back and tweaked it a little bit a couple times. But that was done in an afternoon. And it was really nice. Now I listen to it and I go, oh man, I would still be tweaking.
That's everybody.
13 years later.
All art is abandoned. It's never finished.
Yeah.
That's a great CD. I'm not saying that. I'm not, I'm not saying that because he's my uncle. It was, you put it, best. It's, and the title says it all. In a Mellow Tone. Mm-hmm. Frank would say, you'd put this on and take a nap to it. And you would sit, it's awesome. I love it. That, you introduced me to that song, In a Mellow Tone. You also introduced me to so many other pieces of music that I never would have got to experience. We've got to see Steely Dan together. I never would have been a Steely, I don't know if I never would have, but your appreciation kind of wore off on me a little bit. Not a little bit, but a lot. And you have some other music original pieces that you are creating now. Mm-hmm. So how long ago? In a Mellow Tone was 2003
or something.
Okay,
like that.
yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
And so now this is 16 years later.
Yeah.
And you've been working on some stuff, and you are recording again, which I'm super pumped.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Whether or not anybody likes this stuff, it doesn't matter because it's just the process of creating is fun, and you put it out there and see what happens. So, yeah, it's 67 years in the making. I haven't recorded any original stuff. But I think that I've been trying to hone my writing skills and, getting the right vodka. And I think I found that it's at a convenience store. Anyhow, yeah. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm having a fun time doing that. And of course, it's easy to do it now. Everybody.
Much simpler process.
Yeah. My grandmother has a box set coming out soon. It's so easy to record now.
Right.
And I was thinking, recently that when we were young, if somebody could finance the making of a 45.
Yeah.
It was expensive because you couldn't do that at home. You had to go to a recording studio.
Right.
And you went to the recording studio, and then you got your thing, and the first thing is your grandmother buys 10, and then there's everybody else, a couple of people buy them, but then they go into somebody's closet, and your progeny discovers that box like long after you're dead. They sell it, and you become
I got a couple boxes of waxing gibbous in my basement somewhere.
You become very big in Germany.
And you self-distributed too, which was, the Melatonin. I was telling Brandon earlier. There's a lot of those out there. You had a nice run because you were playing live too and doing it.
I made 1,000 copies, and I sold quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Just out of the back of my car. And and that's the way I'm going to do this, sell it this next one too. I mean, everybody I know that's streaming, they go, oh, we got 40 million hits. We made $12,
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you that too, actually, in my notes, talking about recording a CD and Mike Talenka Studio is like a legit big place.
Yeah.
There was, everyone was playing at the same time. This you can do in a, we have this radio show, for lack of better terms, that terminology, Prodcast. But we're in like a little room here. Like the equipment, it's not a,
We could do it in your car.
We could exactly. Yeah. Well, maybe not in the car, but in my basement, okay, or in whatever. So it's the same kind of thing with different studios and stuff. Now it's a smaller space, and you can control it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Same you can control with the distribution end of things. Are you thinking about, also doing like electronic? Like, are we gonna these new stuff you're working on? iTunes, like you're going to try to get it out into that space as well? YouTube, wouldn't take anything to upload them and just let them live and breathe.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm just,
the next thing is just completing the project. Yeah.
How many pieces, how many albums, or how many songs do you think will go on the album?
Well, I don't know. I've got about 8 done now, and I think I'm just going to what I want to do is I just have them individually, right now. So what I want to do is put them all in one thing, drive around, listen to them, see if any of them offend me.
Marinate.
Yeah. And see if, get an order together. Yeah, because nobody does, or I guess people do, but that's not the thing to do now. You release one here and, it's streaming, but, to make a whole CD, who does that anymore? I don't know, Katy Perry, but,
Well, I like that you're making an album. You're making a something that has a flow to it, and there's that's the one thing I think this is obviously this is a cliched thought now. It's been true for a long time. There's not a lot of people that are putting an album together. Right. You put it on and it's like, here's your single and here's a bunch of shit, or they might not even put the bunch of shit. It's just, here's the single.
Yeah.
Bang it, and
Right. So, I mean, that's the modern way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. We live in a different world now. But
what's the journey we're going on can I say the title? We talked about it before.
It's called Roll On.
Yeah.
And one of the songs on the CD is called Roll On. And I've recorded I recorded this one 3 or 4 times, a couple different studios. And I think I'm happy with this one till the next studio.
Will we hear this song at the Two Ticks and the Dog studio?
Yeah, why not? Are we too long now, you think?
No, not at all. I think hopefully we've built it up. I'm eagerly awaiting. I had hoped you would just pick up and play maybe a couple songs, but is that the song we're going to hear?
Well, let me
we'll adjust here too.
Okay.
Because you can go ahead and Frank's going to get himself situated. I want to preface again the importance, and I feel bad because Brandon, we went a little long. Brandon had to step out. He had another appointment. And, yeah. I pick up that guitar and I play it, and it pisses me off. You take that with you, okay? I got a guitar in my studio. I noodle around a little bit, and I go, I don't know, Frank, because he bought one of his guitars. I said, I don't know. I had this one out to sound check it. It doesn't sound that great. The action's a little high. He picks it up, and it sounds like a fucking Stradivarius. What's this song called?
Oh, let's start off with Roll On. This is kind of a long song. But, when you're writing your own songs and recording your own songs...
Do you want me to adjust that with the boom out so you have more space?
I don't know. I think I'm good.
Yeah, cool.
One thing about it, you're in control of, editing. If you think it's not long enough. Too long. So anyhow, here's the song enough talking about it. Grandma kicked it at 101. Everyone agrees she had a good run, but I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done, yeah. I ain't done. Ray Charles sang a sweet, mean tune. Everybody knows it went too soon. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done making sweet love. I ain't done ridiculing hate. I ain't done showing up early. And I ain't done strutting in real late. I ain't done acting self-righteous. I ain't done begging for a second chance. I ain't done praying for redemption. And I ain't done with a sinful dance. My best friend died at 45. They did all they could to keep him alive, but I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done, yeah. I ain't done taking a deep breath. I ain't done speaking out of turn. I ain't done flying off the handle. And I ain't done doing a slow even burn. You got all the time in the world to play. How much there is they never say. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done being a big man. I ain't done acting a petulant child. I ain't done being responsible. I ain't done being a little bit wild. When I go throw my dust to the sky, some fall down in somebody's eye. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done being a genius. I ain't done being dumb as a rock. I ain't done being as graceful as a ballerina, and I ain't done tripping over my feet when I walk. When I go throw my dust to the sky, some fall down in somebody's eye. I ain't done. I ain't done. I want to roll on, give me one more minute. Roll on, give me one more day. Roll on, give me one more minute. Roll on. Now roll on, give me one more minute. Give me one more day. Give me one more week. I won't roll on. I wanna roll on. I wanna roll on. Give me one more minute. Give me one more day. Give me one more week. Give me one more, one more, one more, one more. Roll on.
I'm not the blind man in the thing, but I did close my eyes. I'm not the deaf man. That was fucking awesome, man. That sounded. I've heard this song. That maybe is only the second time. I loved it the first time. I love it even more now. I can't wait to have this.
Well, good.
In my iPod shuffle. I don't even have an iPod shuffle. I'll just plug it in. We got to put that on the internet, man. That's got to be. We got to have. Man, electronic distribution. These songs are too that your writing has gotten. Not that it hasn't been before. I talked about a song earlier. I'm so blessed because I got to ask and we've worked together on a bunch of projects. But I got to. I was making this movie and moved back from school, and my uncle was back from music, and I asked him to write this song, and it was. We talked about it at the end because I forgot about it, and it was Night Falls. And I think we talked about this back then when I heard this song roll on for the first time. Your lyrics are so good, man. And I'm a fucking lyric nerd, man. I love it, man.
Thanks.
I fucking love that.
You know, one thing I have to say is, I threw away a whole bunch of stuff that I wrote when I was in my 20s because, number one, I didn't really think I had anything to say, and to my credit. I was being honest then, and it sounded like some guy writing stuff. So once I eliminated, just let it flow, and base things on life, and songs sound a little bit better now. They sound a little more authentic.
Well, you know what you want to say, and you know better how to say it.
Yeah.
I went to hear a couple of my friends play at this hotel. I was in college. We went to Toledo, and there was a wedding party afterwards. Mm-hmm. And, I fancied myself a bit of a writer, Frank.
Yeah.
Still do. Still trying to be a writer.
Yeah.
And so I, of course, at the hotel afterwards, there was my friends played, and then we were in the bar of the hotel. And afterwards, the people came from a wedding reception, and it was the bride and groom's parents, and they were, very nice, and the mother, one of the mothers, the bride's mother maybe, was divorced. Mm-hmm. And she was 51. Mm. And I was in a very, very attractive, I was 21 at the time, 22, and I was.
Are you trying to seduce me?
I was trying to strut my shit a little bit and spread my wings. And anyways, I struck up some conversations, and she was a very nice woman. And she said, "Well, what's your thing?" And I said, "I'm getting ready to graduate," and blah blah blah. And she goes, "Well, what are you studying?" And I said, "I'm film student, but my minor is creative writing. I really And she said, "How old are you?" And I said, I was, trying to be cool. I said, 22, but, I knew where she was going. I said, but I'm I don't know what I said, like fucking worldly 22. Yeah. Fucking hadn't even been out of, Yeah. And she goes, what are you going to write about? Yeah. And so, part of it is the confidence. You have to, not that there's not writers that are 22 and can't imagine stuff or that can write authentically about whatever their experience is at that particular time. Yeah. Some people are more precocious than others. Uh-huh. But, man, I feel like we should uncork like a fine bottle of wine and listen to... Can we play another one? Do you bring more?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be from the album. You play whatever you want. Let's just listen a little bit, because this is a first time for our prodders out there. Maybe you can take us out with the song, because I'm trying to do the time. I think we're about, we could maybe do a couple more. We're an hour. Fuck it. We can do whatever we want. I do have to get on a meeting afterwards, but let's play a couple more.
All right. I should say that there's some, electric guitar and more funk type stuff on this album too. So it's not all acoustic guitar. These are like acoustic versions of this stuff. But anyhow, so here's the one I wrote, and I played for a friend of mine, and he didn't like it. So I want to do it right now for everybody.
And wherever you are, who is it? Who's your friend?
Oh, I don't.
No, we don't want to say. Yeah.
I don't want to embarrass him.
He didn't like it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he didn't like it. He just wasn't enthused about it.
Did you make any? Did you adjust any parts of it?
No. I just called up and had his credit card canceled.
Does that guitar sound okay in your thing? We had a little microphone movement here.
Yeah. All right, here's one. It's the most recent one I've written, and it's really a simple tune, and it's called The Bulls at Pamplona. Everything happens to the guy next door. Sometimes the guy next door is you. You're walking down the street when out of the blue, everything happens to you. Everyone you meet is the devil in disguise, or an angel unrealized. Might take a lifetime for you to know the truth, or you can see it in their eyes. I always bet on the Bulls at Pamplona. Some things are so easy to see. The rest of what remains is a sweet mystery. Only a fool makes long-range plans. You can't teach a stone to understand. You can't block the sun with the palm of your hand. You can't turn yourself into another man. I always bet on the Bulls at Pamplona. Some things are so easy to see. While much of what remains is a sweet mystery. Everything happens to the guy next door. Sometimes the guy next door is you.
Turn my mic back on, man. I had to take a second, honestly. Whew, okay. Hi. I do have tissues behind me. I got a little misty-eyed there. Gotta admit, man, that was really beautiful. Where'd you come up with the line, sometimes the guy next door is you?
Well, I started to, it's just the truth. Everything it's too bad about the neighbor, and then it happens to you, and the neighbor says, it's too bad about Jim, Everything happens to everybody. It's just a random occurrence, I guess,
Well, you said the perfect word. It's a truth, you know.
Yeah.
I've never heard it in a song before, though. And so, you know, I always like to see where these, you know, these phrases, which is what's beautiful about it is because it is a truth, you know, which I think is why that kind of art, and I'm easily moved, but I have affinity and bias here, but it moves you.
You know, however you respond to it is legitimate, but I sure as heck didn't, I wasn't going for that. It was just a guy sitting on a front porch talking about, you know, and I don't know if, the bulls at Pamplona is the only.
Is that a Hemingway reference? Because that's where it draws me to.
No.
Of course, I lean that way anyways.
Well, you've seen this every year in July, you know, they show pictures of the people running from the bulls. It's a big international thing. And, you know, I said to my friend, I can't believe what some people do. And he goes, that's one of the things I can't believe people do. But, so that's a thrill. People come from all over. I read up on it, that people come from all over. It initially started in the 14th century or something. They
didn't have shit to do. Let's fucking get some bulls together and run.
Well, that's how they moved the bulls, Young kids would run and the bulls would follow them, So naturally, it became a ritual. Now it's a big thing where a bunch of yuppies from all over the place who can afford to go to Pamplona go there and they dress up. You have to dress up in white and you have to have a red belt and you run in front of the bulls. And every year you watch, and they say in the news, and it was the annual running of the bulls at Pamplona, and they show the thing, and there's some guys flying up in the air.
Fucking asshole Americans getting gored.
Yeah. So that's when I just thought, man, I'd always bet on the bulls.
No doubt. I think, I didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say it now because we went there. But I root for the bulls, and I always take some satisfaction. I don't ever want anyone to get seriously hurt.
Yeah.
I'll disclaimer it, but sometimes I like to see a yuppie get gored by a horn.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like thrills. I like to make my own oxytocin and shit like that, but I ain't gonna do that.
No.
I wonder what this volcano looks like from up here.
The references in there, I'm not using the proper terminology. It was in Roll On also. Your phraseology. I'm going to shut up because I have to process the thought more before I can say it. But the way your lyrics roll into, and it's I'm having again trouble saying it, but they're connected within the stanza of each. I always use poetry terms, and people use. I got a little bit of a hum there. I'm hearing. I'm going to turn this microphone down. But I always use. I never know if the music terms I'm using are actually music terms or they're writing terms. But we always understand what we're saying. The stanza of that phrase of each thing has this thing that starts in the beginning and then goes to the end, and it's connected within that phrase and then within the whole song, which is obviously somewhat what song making is. Okay, but you've done it in such a masterful way. Your lyrics are so. You said it already. They're truths. In the Roll On, it was the same way. I want to hear another song now. Can you play the whole fucking CD? Let's just record the whole CD, man.
Anything that I did was a complete accident. I write this stuff down and I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, here's one.
You have another one? Yes.
This one is.
So we're about. You take us out on this song?
Yeah. This is a good one to go out on.
What's it called?
This one is called "I Want to Be a Mobster."
Let me get this. Let me get the guitar back in.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I almost want to put some effects on it. I don't know how that's going to be though.
Nah, don't do it. Just keep it intimate.
I just put a reverb there. That's too weird.
Yeah. This job is grinding me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of like the intimacy of no reverb. I like reverb a lot when I'm recording. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like singing in the shower.
Yeah. This job is grinding me from a rock to a grain of sand. I spin my wheels in mud, can't get the upper hand. I raise my boys real strong, I teach them right from wrong, but it's the same old song playing on the same old radio. I watch my life just pass me by. Will it go on like this until the day I die? I wanna be a mobster, I wanna be a mobster. I wanna chew my ziti where the deal goes down. A judge in every pocket wanna own this town. Sparkle like a diamond when the sun goes down. Push a pile of money to my congressman. I want Tim to hear this one. Watch my life just pass me by. We go on like this until the day I die. I got my nose through the grindstone, my feet on the ground. I never back up, it's just pound, pound, pound. Wanna be a mobster, I wanna be a mobster. I wanna chew my ziti where the deal goes down. Judge in every pocket wanna own this town. Sparkle like a diamond when the sun goes down. Push a pile of money to my congressman.
That guy's in the audience. He's like this. Cynical. I love the cynicalness in your humor. I love that this is what I love about an album. So you've got these things that flow, and then you have a piece that's different than some of the other pieces.
Yeah. This one has a lot of guitar on it. I mean, there's not many lyrics. It's it's got more things happening musically.
Yeah. And so you had mentioned on the previous one different elements to it. Same with this. How is that? Is it heavy bass? Does it have, what are the pieces underneath?
Oh, it's a real homage to Steely Dan. Donald Fagen is a big, and so it sounds kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I always dug Walter Becker. He on Two Against Nature, I think it was. He did it a lot. He played guitar all the way through it. He played fills all the way through it, and there was not one note you would say, "Oh, that's too much." It was just great. He just had, he wasn't a shredder, but he could compose on the fly and have it be beautiful. And so, I like that, and so that's one thing on.
How many pieces are complete? Like all three of these sound like they're complete pieces. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've listened to some of how many more do you have to be done to polish? When is so I asked Frank this week, I said, hey man, I just got back. I'd love to have you on. We had talked about before, but I want to have you on the podcast. And he was like, oh man, he's like, why don't we wait till the CD is, the album's done, the roll-on's done, and we could do it then. And I said, let's do both. Like, let's come on and do it, because then we can talk about that part of the process. How far along are you? When can we maybe expect these beautiful works?
Well, last year was my goal. So
yesterday.
Yeah. This year, hopefully before summer's up, maybe before that. It depends. My friend is recording me in his basement, and he is also a musician. And so whenever he is available to do this, and not, and he also has albums out. You would love his stuff. And so whenever he can squeeze me in, we do it. And so we're almost done. And
who's the guy? Because I want to get maybe a shout out to him too. You said I love his music. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mick Rogers.
Mick.
Yeah.
Oh,
have you ever heard any of his stuff?
No, I haven't. But I mean, I know him through you.
Yeah.
I've never listened to his.
Oh, he's got a gift, man. He's really got a knack.
iTunes. Is it any electronic?
He's not put anything.
Yeah. We gotta get to that point where like sending links. Hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Shoot it to you. We should do this, I want to help you do that with this album if you want.
Yeah.
This stuff is, that's 3 pieces and you got maybe 5 or 6 others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they all as complete as that? I'm fishing for another song.
Oh, okay. How about I'll do one more? I'll do one more.
Okay.
This song is called Limited Love. I got to get the tempo right because.
Hey, let's do this. When you go out though,
yeah.
I'll do that lazy 70s, 80s fade.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Prodders, thank you. Thank Franks. Jesus, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. Frank, thank you for coming on today. I'm looking forward to when it is complete. He didn't give us a date, people, so you're just going to have to chill. You're going to live on this love of this music on the Prodcast here until the album comes out, but it's going to be called Roll On, and we're going to have him back on afterwards. I'm excited for it. I'll see you at Sunday dinner potentially this weekend. And everybody, thank you for listening. This is a real special episode for me, so share it out there. Get, FPC, man. Let's get FPC and some of this beautiful roll-on music out there into the Prodder universe. Share, like, subscribe, Facebook, iTunes, Podcatcher, Spotify, yada yada. Send the links to each other and catch out. If you're in the greater Warren Youngstown area or in Kent or some other places, Frank Castellano is out there live playing. He plays at places in Austintown. He's at the Manor. A lot of times he plays with the big band in Kent. Frank, what's the name of that place?
That's Venice Cafe. Yeah,
yes,
May 7th. I'll be playing with an 18-piece band. I've been doing that for about 10 years. You got to come out and catch that one of these nights.
I need to. What day is that?
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
7:30.
This will probably premiere after that. So is it every 3 weeks?
No. The next time will be June 6th at downtown Kent. Outside they have Kent Fest or whatever they call it.
Maybe I'll try to get this out even beforehand to try to get the thing for the 7th. If not, June, check out the Venice. Check out Frank Castellano, also at frankcastellano.net.
Yeah, and I also put stuff on Facebook. And,
check out Frank Castellano on Facebook. We'll share some links too. This song is called Roll On. Thank you for prodding with us in the universe. I'm sorry.
This one's called Limited Love.
Limited Love. Prodders, thank you. You're not living unlimited love here at the Prodcast. Until the next time, stay electrified.
I got limited love, limited love, limited love, emanating from this minimal heart of mine. I got limited love, limited love, limited love, emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And that's how it's gonna be forever. And that's how it's gonna be from now on. This minimal heart will learn to carry on. I got limited love, limited love, limited love, emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And that's how it's gonna be forever. And that's how it's gonna be from now on. This mental heart will learn to carry on. Well, I tried big love a couple of times. It never seemed to work so well. It starts off with a whisper, it ends with a hurricane. Bodies strewn everywhere, days of pelting rain. No, I'm never gonna do big love again. No, I'm never gonna do big love again. 'Cause I got limited love, limited love, limited love emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And that's how it's gonna be forever. That's how it's gonna be from now on. This minimal heart will learn to carry on. Well, I met a woman way back when. She gave my heart a start. Drove off with another fool and tossed aside my heart. I got a little tiny wallet. I got a little bit of money. Now if I get a little lonely, I buy a little honey. A little touch of heaven and a few bad jokes. And then she's off into the night and I don't have to meet her folks. And that's the way it's gonna be from now on. That's the way it's gonna be from now on. 'Cause I got limited love, limited love, limited love emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And I got limited love, limited love, limited love emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And that's how it's gonna be forever. And that's how it's gonna be from now on. This minimal heart will learn to carry on. Well, I tried big love a couple of times, and it never seemed to work so well. Well, it starts off with a whisper, it ends with a hurricane. Bodies strewn everywhere, days of pelting rain. No, I'm never gonna do big love again. No, I'm never gonna do big love again. 'Cause I got limited love, limited love, limited love emanating from this minimal heart of mine. Well, I got limited love, limited love, limited love emanating from this minimal heart of mine. And that's how it's gonna be forever. And that's how it's gonna be from now on.
And that is it for the show today. Wow. I literally could have sat here and listened to Frank play all day. I want to hear those other tunes. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm biased. I get it. But really, I'm not biased. I mean, those lyrics and the music that he put together in his original compositions, I was legit, like, flipped out a little bit. I'm like a little bit of a lyrical snob. You know, I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I've written music. I've written lyrics. I've got a couple. There's some music somewhere floating around on iTunes. Our band, Yeah, Y-E-A-H, Yeah, that's an acronym actually for Your Escape Artist Heroes. Tim Drummond, Dan Diallo, Larry Infant, and the infamous Frank Castellano plays lead guitar on all these songs. Yours truly is the lead singer. Yeah, check it out if you don't believe me. Yeah. Anyways, I'm a lyrical snob, man, and I was blown away. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you pass this episode around. Share it with your people. Share it with your friends. Subscribe. And be ready for our next one, because our next episode is also going to be a doozy. I'm not going to preface it because I want to say real quick thanks to Brandon Giovanni, MDI Studios. You need a website? This is the guy to call. MDI Studios, Brandon Giovanni. You can find out more at mdistudios.com. And lastly, but certainly not least, it's the weekend. Well, it may not be. You might be listening to this on a Monday, but we'll release this. It'll be the weekend, or close to it. Modern Methods Brewery, right on Dave Grohl Alley. Great beer. Go ask for the Darlene. I keep saying the Darlene, like the Ohio State University. Just go get yourself a glass of Darlene. It's fantastic. You want to talk about mood enhancement? I mean, Axio is fantastic. Darlene, whew. We'll have to have Adam. I know we're going to have Adam Keck on at some point. He is the mastermind and owner of Modern Methods Brewery, and we can sample. We'll see what makes you feel better. We'll do some kind of non-scientific study. But Modern Methods Brewery, get yourself a beer, drink responsibly, drive responsibly. Make sure you get an Uber or a DD. If you want to find out more, go to modernmethodsbrew.com, see their hours, see their events. It is a great time. Enjoy a beer or two. And hey, if we're there, myself, Brandon, or anybody, feel free to buy us a beer. We will not hesitate to accept. Until then, prodders out in the Prodcast universe, we love you. Until the next show, stay electrified.